Tuning back in. I'm Jennifer J. This is day 2. If you missed day 1, go back and watch it. It was only about 15 minutes long, but you're going to want to catch up and get up to speed before you watch today's little series. So I won't take up too much of your time, but I hope that you have subscribed and liked, and I hope that you will make comments so that I can know what you guys are thinking, if this is interesting to you, or if you have questions or want to talk about anything. Even if you have prayer requests, please, I love to pray for other people, so please feel free to message me those. You can also follow me on Instagram if you'd like at JenniferJ67, and you can private message me those prayer requests there if you would like. So feel free to do that. I'm going to go back just a second and talk about where I ended yesterday. Was that I had been leaning into God all year, and He had told me to pray big prayers. So that's kind of where we left off. I knew He had something big in mind for me. I did not know what, but I was trying to be ready for it, whatever it was. So about a month after He told me that, I had gone to the doctor for something, and he told me that I shouldn't live in Kansas. That was interesting. He said that I get sick way too often, and I have Raynaud's. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's basically poor circulation, and it causes your fingers and toes to turn purple and blue and white, and it hurts really bad. So he had just said, you know, you should live in a warm state. And I said, well, I can't. My children and my grandchildren live here, so this is where I live. And so then he said, well, then you should be a snowbird and just only live here when it's warm. And I didn't think much about it, you guys. I just went on with my life. But it's interesting because that comes back around again the next year. But in January of 21, you know, we'd been in COVID for a while now, and I was content. I can't say I was necessarily happy. I wasn't unhappy. I was content. And I was looking forward to whatever God had planned for me. And I remember Him telling me in February, love God, love people, and leave. And that was a strange thing for Him to say to me, I thought. But immediately then, as soon as I thought that it was strange, He said, Jennifer, it's okay. Okay. I wasn't really sure what all that meant, but that's what He said, and I wrote it down because it was just so odd. And I keep a prayer journal. I don't know if you guys do, but I wrote those words down because when God speaks to me, I always try to write it down so I don't forget. But very shortly after that, in the fall of 21, I had Arizona kind of in my face all the time, every day. And I was like, I'm not moving to Arizona. I am fine right where I am, near my kids and grandkids. I had to change doctors because our insurance changed at work. And this doctor told me the same thing, almost verbatim, and said, you really shouldn't live in Kansas. You know, you're sick too much, and this Raynaud's hurts, and said I should be a snowbird, if nothing else, and suggested Arizona, which I just thought was funny at this point because it had been in my face so much. But then after she told me that I should move to Arizona or be a snowbird in Arizona, the next Sunday at church, the sermon was called Prepare to Move. And the pastor asked, are you ready to move? And he was talking about, you guys, you know, being active in your faith, not just coming to church and sitting in the pew, but like throughout the week, going to your neighbors and helping or praying with them or sharing Christ, or, you know, getting involved in ministries at the church and not leaving it to the 20% that do things, but get involved and help. But to me and to my heart, he was saying so much more. And the next week, his sermon was move from here to there. And I got to read to you a little bit of what he said because it really stuck with me. But he said, move forward with faith. Faith is willingness to move on a maybe. Where is God calling you? And you guys, this one, I told you we had bought some land out across town to build the new church on that I wasn't going to be part of. And this sermon was actually at the land. So they had a big stage and sound system and everything, and they had all 4 services, because at the small building, we don't all fit, so we have to have 4 services. But they had everybody out to one service out at the land, right? And at the end of it, they said to come forward. They had something for everybody, and they gave you this little package. And I brought it home and looked at it. Excuse me. It was a little dog tag necklace that had the word move with an arrow on it. And the pastor had said, you know, wear this around your neck, put it around your rearview mirror. I don't care where you put it, but put it somewhere where you can see it so that you remember, you know, and do what God's calling you to do. And you guys, I took that thing home and I stuck it in a drawer in the closet. I did not want to look at it. I did not want to be reminded. I did not want to think about the word move. But the word move was in my face. It was everywhere. The church had gotten banners and booklets, study guide booklets that we were doing little Bible studies in our life groups. And we had a women's ornament exchange, and they used it as their theme for the night and had the tables decorated with the word move. I mean, it was just everywhere. And I thought it would just be the sermon series, right? It was 5 Sundays, and then those would go away and they'd put up the new ones. But no, this is a 2-year building campaign. So therefore, those things are staying up for a while. And I know you can hear my dog. I'm so sorry, you guys. I told you this wasn't going to be real professional. He's saving me from certain death by mailman. I'm sure of it. So don't worry, everything's fine. But then in October 17th of 21, there was another sermon called From Comfort Zone to Danger Zone. And you guys, I do want to mention before I forget, on my banner page, there's a link to the New Life Church, and you can go and watch these sermons. They are really good. Now be prepared. God may call you to something, but they are really good. And this sermon series was in the fall of 21, and it was called Moving. So I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Anyway, this sermon said, anytime God calls you to move, people are going to spread a bad report about you. God is bigger than the obstacles. Quit holding on to what's holding you back. Excuses are self-imposed limitations. Well, I don't know if people were really spreading a bad report about me, but I do know that people were talking about me. People thought I was crazy because I was talking about moving to Arizona, 1,200 miles away from my family. And people thought I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. And people thought, I don't know what people thought. They didn't tell me, but I could tell by the looks on their faces, they were talking to each other. You know how you know when people are talking behind your back? And so I knew people were talking, but I knew to be prepared to that because Pastor Rick had said, when God calls you to move, people are going to spread a bad report about you. And it reminded me also of Noah. You know, it had never rained on the earth before, and yet he was building an ark to save them from a flood, and people talked bad about him. You know, they didn't know what he was doing or what rain was or what a flood was. Like, this man's crazy. And he spent years and years and years building that thing. And he just kept moving forward, even with all the obstacles and all the hate speech and everything like that. So I just knew I had to keep going. I couldn't listen to the naysayers. I had to keep moving forward. So October 24th, the sermon was From Interest to Impact. And Pastor Rick had said, be faithful and obedient to what God has called you to do. And here's what really got me, you guys. He said, God is preparing to throw something your way. Out of nowhere will come a calling. Something, a big assignment, a new call is coming. You guys, he wasn't kidding. and 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 I knew what God was telling me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But I knew what God was telling me. On October 31st, I wrote in my prayer journal, "You're not where God wants you to be yet." That's interesting because the next Sunday at church, the sermon was "From an audience to an army. Move from where you are to where he wants you to be." So I had just written, "You're not where God wants you to be yet." And then the pastor says, "Move from where you are to where he wants you to be." You guys, it was so overwhelming to me. And I know everybody hears God differently, and I don't know how he speaks to you. You don't know how he speaks to me, but I honestly believe that he speaks to us through our circumstances and through prayer and through his word and through other people. And it was coming in all those forms. It was coming in all of those forms. So I knew his voice. He says his sheep will know his voice, and I knew his voice. So finally, in December of 21, I was sitting in my car, and I had the radio on down low, but I was just sitting in my driveway with the car running. And I was talking to God about all this. And I said, "You know, God, I know you're not going to send me to Arizona without a ministry. So could you maybe at least tell me what the ministry is?" And I'm not kidding you. Y'all, I didn't even finish my thought. And the radio, it was on K-Love, and they started interviewing a man from Phoenix. And I turned it up. Let me preface this by saying I'm a foster mom, have been for years. I've fostered 58 kiddos. And the man they were interviewing runs OCJ Kids Ministries in Phoenix. I believe they're also tagged on my banner page, so if you could go check them out, make a donation, $5, $1, doesn't matter, help them out. That's my little commercial for them. But the thing that he said was he had started a program that mentors foster children aging out of the system and transitioning into the world. They give them cell phones and a mentor, and all. He was just talking about all the things they do. And even now, you guys, while I'm telling you that story, just that little tiny piece of that story, I have goosebumps all over my body. Every time I tell it, I just know that was God. And I heard him when it was a foster care ministry. I was like, okay, God, I hear you. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys know the story about the fleece and Gideon. I'm going to read it to you because you may know it, you may not know it. But it's in Judges, chapter 6, I think. Let me look. Yeah, chapter 6 and verse 36. So, excuse me while I look down because I've got to read it. So, Gideon said to God, "If you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, look, I shall put a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there's dew on the fleece only, and it's dry on all the ground, then I shall know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said." And it was so. When he rose early the next morning and squeezed the fleece together, he wrung the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not be angry with me, but let me speak just once more. Let me test, I pray, just once more with the fleece. Let it now be dry only on the fleece, but on all the ground there will be dew." And God did so that night. It was dry on the fleece only, but there was dew on all the ground. So that's where they come with the saying, "I threw my fleece out." So fleece is wool, you know, like a rug of sheep's wool, or a blanket. And I feel like that's what I did with the radio station. You know, I was telling God, will you tell me what my ministry is going to be at least? I feel like that was throwing out my fleece, and he did. He gave me a ministry right there. And then it wasn't even 12 hours later, you guys, because we're human, but I'm waking up, and when I wake up, I don't get out of bed, you guys. I'm probably in my bed for almost a solid hour, truthfully. Just being real. I say my prayers, I read my Bible study, and I open Facebook. And I got to tell you, when I open Facebook, I expect to see my family, because on my favorites, I have my 4 older sisters and my kids. And so I'm expecting to see my grandkids or my sisters or their grandkids, or, you know, that's what I see. And I'm sorry to the rest of you that I'm friends with. I don't go much further past that first thing in the morning. I just want to see what my family's doing, and then I move on, right? And later at night when I'm bored, that's when I'm scrolling through and looking at y'all. But, you know, we all do it. And so this morning I sat up after my prayer time and I said to God, okay, because I'm throwing out my fleece, okay? God, if this is really, really you, and it's not just me saying I want to move to Arizona, if it's really you, I need to see that word move just one more time. And I finished my prayers and I opened Facebook, and you guys, it wasn't any of my family. My very first post was from one of my business partners. She's a realtor in Kansas City, and her name's Maisha Wright. God bless you, Maisha. We've had a chance since then to talk about it, but she had posted, and I'm going to have to read it to you guys because it was really good. She said, don't make an assumption that you have more time. Move as if you don't. I have chills again. I just have to tell you guys, I shut Facebook. I didn't look at another post. I looked up at God and I said, I hear you loud and clear. And the story really could stop there. It really could, because I heard him loud and clear. He said, go. And yet, human that I am, there are many, many times of doubt from there to here. Personal, private message me if you have a personal prayer request. I'd be happy and honored to pray for you. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.